When disaster strikes, directly immediately ships out medicine, medical supplies, and everything doctors and nurses need to save them. But hear me out. Every day across the United States and around the world, there are enormous news. Some of these help. Politics, no red tape. Hey, what you doing over there?
Salah got hired by the Titans,
Yeah, I know.
and then Jimmy Butler towards ACL.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised that they saw that hired that. The Titans hired Salah.
Oh.
Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle. Join us live on BTRN Sports 93.3 FM or the BTRN Sports app. Or the BTRN Sports on your smart speaker or stream live on YouTube. Time to get ready for your day with the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy.
7:03 on this Tuesday, January 20th. Welcome to the morning warm-up. I am the one, the only Trey Lyle. That is Tyrone Tracy. And Ty, we have a football national champion that has been crowned. And it is, in the big picture, one of the shocking things maybe to ever happen in the history of sports. All right. So we're going to start with the national championship game because obviously the core of the Indiana Hoosiers were partially in James Madison, including a majority of the coaching staff led by head coach Curt Cignetti, as they win 27-21. Ty, you picked – no, we both picked Indiana to cover. We were 1 point off. Yeah, but we did say we thought Miami was equipped to at least stay in the game. Like their defensive line clearly was good enough. My favorite stat from this game, Ty, you want to guess the last team? I don't know if you saw this. The last team to go 16-0 in major college football? No, 16-0. They went 15-0. It is Yale in 1894 because, like, back then they would play random teams, like high school teams and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that is 150 something years ago.
No, it was over 150 at least.
Because it would be 130. Yeah, 131 years ago. That's insane. I don't think our grandparents were not even thought of in 1894. That was before both world wars. Anyways, who?
That's a stat. Like,
here we go.
Ain't no way that happened back in the day. They're like, yeah, look it up. I'm like, come on, this ain't illegal.
Who was the president of the United States in 1894? Hint. He was the first U.S. president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, and he was the first. And we're not going to mention his political party. It's Grover Cleveland. So, who's I think just Ty already struggling with today in sports history. Yeah. Anyways, Indiana wins 27-21 in a really fun football game. If you left this first half when it was 10-0 Indiana, it honestly felt bigger. It felt like Indiana dominated the first half of that game. Miami made some good adjustments defensively in the second half. Miami scored a little bit, but ultimately Indiana does enough. I think the play of the game, though, is the 4th and 5, which with the 12-yard touchdown run by Fernando Mendoza, where he dives into the end zone and is able to get the game-winning score. and get it done. It was just a really
I would say that block punt was actually the turn point to keep Indiana up. I feel like to me.
the block. I think the difference of the game is the block punt, but to me, the moment I felt like just because
It was definitely that run, that touchdown run by.
because that was the moment I was like, okay, Indiana's going to win this game because I think Miami scored so quickly right after the block punt. Like they blocked the punt and then Miami just responded with a great touchdown.
Yeah.
I think you have to
No, I ain't say like that was definitely a big time play decision with for no Ben. Shoot, can't get his name right in my head now.
Mendoza, the quarterback.
Yeah, Mendoza. I was about to call Fernando. Mendoza did.
Fernando.
Yeah, I don't know why that.
Fernando Mendoza. He's the he won the highs. He's gonna be
So what he did, like I think that was a big play as well. But I just feel like that block punt was the actual turning point to keep their momentum up the whole game.
Yeah. So and that was Kamara, who was a very former JMU Duke that actually got it done on that play.
But also that receiver they got, that receiver he made like some big.
Oh, Charlie Becker. Those back shoulder throws were insane. The plays he was making.
I was surprised they didn't switch off Miami's defense and switch corners when that kept happening the whole time.
Yeah, I just think I think ultimately you have to give Indiana credit because this is the this is the most improbable thing. By the way, here is the call of the. You might be like I think those two plays, the punt block, the two plays that will be remembered forever is the punt block and the Mendoza run. Mm-hmm. And I think the Mendoza run, I said, is the second greatest run in the history of college football by a quarterback behind. I think Vince Young clearly has the 1-1 spot, the Rose Bowl run. Oh, yeah. But the fact this is in a national championship game, Sean McDonough on the call for ESPN Radio with the game with this touchdown. Gives them the 10-point lead. Miami does respond with another a touchdown on the previous drive. To Miami's credit, they responded like, okay, we got to talk. We'll talk more about this game later. But joining us now is a man who is a Big Ten guy. You can call him a Big Ten guy. He Lake Lewis. How about now? Can you hear me? Check. Okay. Oh. All right, we're gonna get Lake back in a second. We're working. God, I love technology this morning. But we're about to be joined again by Lake Lewis.
I could say this about Indiana. This is probably one of the greatest turnaround programs in sports.
Yeah, I was gonna.
History.
We'll talk more about this later, but I'm gonna compare it to something that happened, ironically, in 2016 and in the Premier League, as we're now. He can hear us. Okay, you can hear us now. Sweet. All right, we're joined by Lake Lewis. Gotta love technology at 7 a.m. So you can't hear me again?
I could hear you and then I can't.
I can hear him.
We can hear you. That's weird.
Okay, let's try one more time.
Here.
Love technology. All right, so while we're working on that, we're joined by Lake Lewis. An NFL headline is Robert Saleh is now the next head coach with the Tennessee Titans. That was announced overnight. It is quite fascinating to see how that's going to shake up. Robert Saleh, the new head coach. I was shocked they went defense in Tennessee, Ty, considering they have Cam Ward, but
Yeah.
Robert Saleh gets his second chance as a head coach. How about now? We got Lake.
I can hear you.
Okay, third time's the charm. Sorry about that, folks. We're working through some issues this morning. So let let's dive right in as we are here with Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders insider. But we're gonna start with an NFL question. Like Robert Saleh, next head coach in Tennessee. Were you shocked by that decision with them going with a defensive guy, considering they do have the young quarterback in Cam Ward?
No, no, not at all. Because first and foremost, I thought Robert Saleh got a raw deal when he was in New York. That's a tough place to turn anything around. You can ask a lot of coaches about that. A lot of former coaches about that too. So I think for them, they're probably looking at the model of Houston, where, if you have a really good defense and you have a really good defensive mind leading that defense, you can turn your fortunes around real quick. It's good that the league is getting back to their roots and defense wins championships. That's what they always say. Um, Look at the national championship game last night. It goes all the way back to any level. Your defense, if they make the plays, they're going to win your games and you're going to win a championship. So is Tennessee going to win a championship anytime soon? Probably not. But the point is that I think that they got a really good qualified guy that's coming from, for the second time is coming from, that Shanahan tree, where they've had successful, assistants going to be really good head coaches.
Looking at this coaching cycle, uh, and probably the two, the most marquee hire now has happened since we last spoke. John Harbaugh, the next head coach of the New York Giants. Two parts. One, what did you think of the hire by the Giants as the landing spot for maybe the most desirable, it might be the right word, head coaching candidate in John Harbaugh? And ultimately, how does that affect, the NFC East as a whole?
I mean, it's huge implications. I mean, you have a Super Bowl winning coach who's been successful. Some people still feel like maybe he should still be the coach in Baltimore. I mean, that's how successful he was. And I think it's good for football. I think it's great for the NFC East, to become now just again the marquee division as far as just market size for the teams in it. Uh, and as far as the names, I mean, you've got, some of the best young quarterbacks in the league, and Jaden and Jackson Dart looks like he's capable of adding his name to that list of young quarterbacks. And then, of course, you have, I'm not going to say it, but what some people consider America's team, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and all their turmoil, they're still a super talented roster. And it's interesting to see what they're going to do this offseason to get back on track. So I think it's good for, the NFL. It's good for the NFC. It's good for the NFC East. And I think he can come in there and turn the Giants around immediately. I mean, they have some talent. They do. And you're going to get a Malik Neighbors back. Are they a team that should be a Super Bowl team? That's kind of a stretch, but you never know. They could be a playoff team or a team that's competing for a playoff spot, and that would be big time news for anyone that's associated with the Giants, because they've been down for a while now.
And like with John Harbaugh, who's known as a franchise builder, he knows how to keep the franchise and he builds up. I feel like he's walking in a great position with a lot of young pieces around him, and he knows how to develop them players.
Yeah, he does, and I know I've been hearing that franchise builder tag labeled on him, Ty, for a while now, and I always say he's only been at one franchise.
Well, I ain't say he ain't built a Ravens franchise, but I think like he helped Lamar Jackson develop his game.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so he's a guy that knows what he wants, and he knows the type of, players, the type of play he wants. One thing the Giants are going to be now is physical, because that's his MO. His blueprint is he had physical Ravens teams. Yeah, over the last several years, the defenses have kind of faltered, and I liken a lot of that to, when you're successful, your coordinators get, poached. And that's what happened with Baltimore, with Mike McDonald, was really doing some good things with their defense. And because of that success, he landed a job in Seattle as their head coach. And you see literally how overnight Seattle's defense is playing now, and they're probably going to get to the Super Bowl. So, well, the Rams have something to say about that. But the point is, they're in contention. So I think with Harbaugh, he's walking into New York, and like I said, they have some pieces in place. And one thing we all know about the Giants is that they spent a lot of money in draft capital in their defense, and that defense was never producing the way the talent tells you it should. So, if anything, I think that you're going to finally see that defense become what they should be, which means, as we just talked about with Robert Saleh, going to Tennessee. If you can get someone's defense up to par, everything else can follow suit, and I think that's going to be what they're trying to do in New York immediately.
Kevin Stefanski is the other hire in this cycle. I think it's a pretty simple cycle, a pretty simple hire there. I think he's a really good coach. I mean, two-time coach of the year. He won a playoff game for the Browns, which I feel like is like winning the Super Bowl for every other team in the league.
Hmm.
Considering it's the Cleveland Browns, and I think there were other factors in Cleveland that getting forced on a quarterback he probably wasn't fully sold on in Deshaun Watson. And it just it ended there poorly. I think he's going to do a good job in Atlanta. But the interesting thing, obviously, McDermott gets fired on Monday, so it's not like we can say it's kind of shocking. But the two most notable hires that are not filled, and maybe you would think dictated the market, would have been Baltimore, and then obviously I feel like these coaches, at least the agents, would have had some sense there's a chance that Buffalo would have opened up uh after this week.
Or
So
Pittsburgh.
or Pittsburgh, but again, I think Pittsburgh's like a tier below because they don't have they don't have Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson at the helm. But are you kind of surprised that I don't want to say the lower tier jobs, 'cause I think the Giants is a good job, for example, considering like the young core they have, and I think Atlanta has a lot of good intriguing pieces, and Tennessee also has Cam Ward. So it's not like those jobs are necessarily it's not the Browns or the Cardinals or the Dolphins getting filled, which the Dolphins do get filled too with Jeff Hadley. That happened
Yeah.
yesterday. Um, but are you kind of surprised that Baltimore and Buffalo weren't the first 2 to get filled, even though obviously Buffalo can't get filled like 2 days after because of, the way the NFL hiring process has to work.
No, I'm not. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised that they're still open. And the reason for that is because their cachet as organizations. I mean, you're talking about organizations that, have rabid fan bases, have history. In the sense of Buffalo, they've got a brand new spanking new stadium getting ready to open up. They've got, a franchise quarterback, who's still in his prime, and Josh Allen. They've got a lot of things there, but for me, I think the Buffalo job gets filled in house. I think Joe Brady's getting that job unless something's happened since I've come downstairs to do this with you. Yeah, that's how I see that working out, because that's just too much disruption for a team that was perhaps a horrible call away from advancing in the playoffs. I still think that was a bad call too, by the way. So, and I have
The
no vested
catch or the
interest in
PIs?
the catch that was called a PI.
Or you mean
I
the
thought,
catch that was the interception?
yeah,
Got it.
I just think, we saw so many cases of that. We saw one the next day, and literally looked very similar to me, and I was always told, as a former wide receiver, yes, I had really good hands. I was told that Tiger always goes to the receiver. That's what I was told, So unless something, do you know they've just opened up a whole new, and I know I'm straying here, but that's just the receiver in me, as I hate it. They've opened up a box here that's not good, because you're gonna see D-backs practicing that, to land on top of you after you've caught the ball now and hit the ground, to land on top of you and take the ball away from you so they can say it was a continuous play. That's what happened there. So anyway, with all that being said, as far as these openings, I think Baltimore and I think some of these other teams are doing their due diligence, and they're waiting because look at who's left in the playoffs. We already know that the Rams have two or three young guns on Sean McVay's staff that are worth taking a look at. You might be able to say, look, man, look at what McDaniel's doing in McDonald's doing in Seattle. Somebody may want to look at Kubiak, as their offensive coordinator or someone else. And then you look on the other side of the ball. There's hot names, obviously. Denver's offensive coordinator is a hot name right now that a lot of people are looking at. And look at New England. Vrabel's staff. Look the turnaround that they've had. So maybe some of his defensive guys with the way their defense is playing. So I just think there's no need to rush because these are all important decisions. And yeah, there's some great, sexy names out there, guys that have proven that they can be successful too. So you've got the pick of the litter, but my thing is you better make sure you get it right because when you fire coaches and you bring in someone else, fans have higher expectations and they want to see some instant results.
So clearly, he thinks Josh McDaniel's getting another shot as a head coach. That's what I'm
No,
taking
I
up.
don't. I don't. No, I don't. I
I,
think,
I,
I don't think he wants another shot. To be honest with you, I think he's
I
he's a
think I think
life.
he's
He's
good.
yeah,
I
I
think
he's
think
he's
a
so
good.
too.
Patriots lifer.
All right.
I think he's good. He's
What?
there. He's
So
good. New
so
England.
one more question about the Buffalo Bills. I find intriguing. All right. So if I give you Brian Daboll and Joe Brady, do you think, as the two candidates in Buffalo, do you think the other one who doesn't get it is
Would
most
be the
likely
offensive coordinator.
the next offensive coordinator in Philadelphia?
If that's the case, and I'm the Eagles, I'm hoping I'm hoping it's Dabo if I'm the Eagles. And the reason why I say that is because of the familiarity with the division, the temperament that I think that town and team needs. Joe Brady's just mad cool. He's laid back dude, very cerebral. And I just think that the move in Buffalo, first of all, I think it was a stupid move. That's just me. And I got to see some people up there, so I shouldn't say such harsh words. But the point is, what are you going to get this better for that situation? I mean, the guy was in nine playoffs in 8 years. I mean, 8 playoffs in 9 years, five division titles. Everyone's saying, but they can't win the big one. Well, look at who they have to go through to get there. And I understand Josh didn't play his best game last weekend. He didn't, but he played well enough for them to potentially be in situation to kick a game-winning field goal in overtime that was taken away from them. So I just thought that was a real big knee-jerk reaction. I thought McDermott was in trouble if they were to have lost to Jacksonville, but they went into Jacksonville as an underdog and beat them. So like, and then you go to Denver as an underdog and you have them on the ropes. I don't want to hear the Bo Nix injury thing played a part because that happened on the second to last play of the game. So they, for all intents and purposes, could have moved on. And then are we having this conversation about McDermott? It's almost like when you fire somebody at that point, guys, you had already made your mind up that you were moving on from him, barring him winning a Super Bowl. And that's tough.
Yeah, it appears based on the reporting that the GM won over the head coach, which is nothing
100%.
new. Nothing new. Speaking of coaching, and before we get more bigger thoughts on the NFL playoffs, we're here with Lake Lewis Commanders and NFL Insider at Lake Lewis Jr. on Twitter. Any updates on the defensive coordinator search for the Commanders? Is it more of a wait and see approach? Because there are guys, you think of an Al Harris Jr. as some name you brought up. He just now finished as of
Hmm.
I probably had the game of the weekend, which was Bears Rams. He just now finished, so it's kind of there's some clarity there. Do you think this might take how much longer do you think it's going to take to fill that other coordinator spot?
No, I think the spot will be filled this week. I truly believe that. And I think a name that you're going to hear surface is going to be Sean McDermott.
Mm.
um, he and Dan have ties to William and Mary. Dan was assistant coach. Not assistant coach, but as assistant, I think, D-backs coach when Sean and Tomlin were actually playing. So, at William and Mary. So I think that there's a legit chance that his name comes up, because one thing we know, and we've talked about it together here, is that I know that they want an experienced play caller on defense, and McDermott, that's what he's known for. It's his defensive acumen, and that's what he was when he was with Rivera and some of these other guys, as a coordinator. So I think that that could be a look, and it also gives a coach who's been fired, unless someone else is going to give him a head coaching job, which very well could happen because he's qualified for that, as we know. But if it gives you a chance to reset, kind of like we can't say Flores because he's done it now for a couple of years, after he was ousted as a head coach. I just think that some of these guys aren't looking to move on right away. It could be 2 years, and for me, I've always said, if you're a team like Washington and you make a move for a coordinator, you want those guys to stick around for a little bit, and that's why I like the David Blauhire, because if unless they light the world on fire this year, I could see him being the coordinator and the offensive coordinator in Washington for several years. So you want to match that on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Something I asked Ty yesterday, and it was one of my takeaways from the NFL, the playoff games this week in relation to the Commanders,
Hmm.
was the play of CJ Stroud. And because if you look at CJ Stroud, his year one was awesome, like Jaden Daniels, who was
Hmm.
awesome. And then year two, while they had different year twos. Stroud did not look as good, but he played. Whereas Daniels, it I'm not even gonna fully assess his season because he basically didn't play the whole season. He missed 9 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I'll
he did.
Yeah, so, like, how can you fully assess half a season of play? Like,
Hmm.
it's just too hard to do considering everything, but obviously, even when he did play, I don't think he played as well as he did his rookie year. I I don't think there is, like, he's gonna regress to a point where we're talking about possibly benching the quarterback in the playoff game to Davis Mills, but what kind of cautionary tale could it be for Washington as they watch Houston in terms of how they handled kind of this growth of CJ Stroud, where you could argue CJ Stroud thought, all right, I'm this guy, so I'm gonna play this style of football. Whereas with my defense, I should be this guy and play that style of football. And it led to probably the downfall for Houston.
That's a good question. After a couple of days and just really going back and thinking about the big picture with CJ, I mean, he played terrible. Like there's no getting around that. I mean, if you stood near him on the sidelines, there was probably a stench coming off of him because he stunk. He did. It was bad. And you can make an argument that, yeah, he cost them the game. That's how bad he was. You had the polar opposites. You had the best defense on the field, and yeah, they still were better than New England's defense. Let's make no mistake about it. Houston's defense is phenomenal. Best defense on the field, doing everything humanly possible to keep you in the game, and your quarterback over here is just tossing the game away. Pick six, fumbles, just moon balls, just throwing them up for grabs. I mean, it was a terrible display of quarterback.
And
But
I interrupt you, like,
got
but I told Trey, I was like, it was crazy that we had like 5 turnovers and
I,
Houston still had a chance to win the game because
Bill
it's just
Bill
CJ Stroud, it's just a CJ play.
e
I was like, the defense still kept in the game even though he had bad
yep,
turnovers and everything. That's the craziest part.
ESPN's
yeah,
Bill Barnwell was like, if Houston just punted on first down every play, every time they got the ball, they would have won the game.
yeah, because CJ was, giving it up on the other side of the ball. I mean, on the other side of the field, on their side. So it was like New England didn't have to do hardly any work. Take nothing away from, New England. They did what they needed to do, and they made some, Stephon Diggs' catch was outstanding. Keyshawn Butte, the catch he made, that was phenomenal. That's that receiver love coming back again. They caught with their hands, not body catching, so, but with all that said, Houston was in the game despite all of that because of how great their defense is. So I was just saying, I was thinking about it, and although CJ stunk it up, he was without Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz got hurt early. I mean, you're missing your two biggest weapons on offense in a snow game, in a game where you knew it was going to be close to the vest, and that's how it goes. But you can't have a franchise quarterback who you think could be a franchise quarterback playing like that. Drake May didn't play particularly well, but he made the plays that he needed to make, and that's the difference. You look at Caleb in the Bears game. Those guys made the plays that they needed to make when they needed to make them, and CJ just looked. I was watching the game with Janine here, and I was saying to myself, she's like, Why do you keep getting on this kid?" And I'm like, because look at his body language. I'm like, if I'm a teammate of his, I'm in his grill right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just look like, I understand they have that, we call it the California cool. I tease Jaden Daniels about it all the time in the locker room. Cali cool. They're just very laid back. That's their demeanors. But I don't want to see my quarterback looking like that when he's making bonehead mistakes. I need to see some emotion. Like, I need it because it looked like mentally he had checked out. That's what it looked like to me.
And how does that relate? They so obviously, I think Stroud and Caleb Williams might be a little bit more tied together because of the big bro moment that Stroud tried to do to Caleb Williams. Ironically, I don't know, Caleb Williams has played so much better than him since that moment. It's kind of a funny moment in NFL history where that happens, and, like, especially because they played back to back, even though they both lost, like,
Hmm.
Caleb looked, uh Caleb, even though
Better,
he threw 3 interceptions, looked like made
way
one
better.
of the most insane throws you could see in that day. But I do think Houston is the perfect comparison to Washington because they were viewed, they both took a quarterback at number 2. They both were viewed as the worst situation going into the draft, whereas, like, compared to Carolina, and they both now sort of have I don't know if it's flipped as much with comparing the Panthers because 'cause they're the Panthers and the Texans, but it felt like between the 1st and 2nd pick, at one point, the number 2 pick guy had a big lead on the number 1 pick, and both have considerably closed the gap. Caleb and Jaden a little different than Bryce and CJ. But if you're a Commanders fan, you're watching Houston, you're like, this is y
See, I
you
don't,
have to
honestly, not to cut you off here, but I don't
go
see
ahead.
it that way. The reason why I
Okay.
say that is because I'm gonna make it even better for you here. Okay. If Washington had Houston's defense, they would have won two Super Bowls in a row. I'm
Fair.
just,
Yeah,
I,
that is the bigger difference is, like,
yeah,
the best
yeah,
defense like, Houston might have the best defensive player in the NFL, who they took 3rd in that draft in Will Anderson, which granted, he's not, it's Myles Garrett, but my point being, like, Will Anderson was the best defensive player left in the playoffs come this past weekend
yeah,
and was
yeah.
literally almost won them that game with how dominant he was, and Washington
Yeah.
is nowhere close to that on the defensive side of the ball.
No, and that's what I'm saying. But yet Washington was in the NFC Championship game last year. Houston's never got they're 0-7 in the divisional round as a franchise. They don't get past that game. And if you go back in history in those 7 games, there's been a lot of turnovers in those games. You can't put their history on CJ because that's just been the last 2 years with him. Uh, but or 3 years now. But the thing is that in fairness to CJ, before we totally pile on, he's had multiple coordinators. And, somebody's going to say, cry me a river because look at Jalen Hurts. Well, people were down on Jalen Hurts after this Eagles loss in the playoffs. Oh, he told you can't win when you have to put the game on them. No, you can't win when your coordinator's not good. That's what that is. So if you're Washington, I'm probably going to say Washington is they're probably in between Houston and Carolina, as a franchise.
Yeah.
So Washington's right in the middle. But if Washington had Houston's defense, I'm sure any team can say that as well. But we're just talking about those three quarterbacks who, by the way, all three of them grew up together, San Bernardino area, in California. But I clearly believe that CJ's regressed I see it with my own eyes, and I think that's coaching. I think they haven't developed him properly.
Which on the TV broadcast, which I listened to a little bit of, Trey when kind of touched on like they needed
Mhm,
to develop him better, which is has been a concern throughout the lead with quarterback development. And you see like you get the proper coaching. You mentioned going back to the Dable thing. I do want to note about if he becomes the Philadelphia OC, it would be the first repeat coordinator like in Jalen Hurts' like football career because Brian Dable was his OC when he was a freshman at Alabama. That's how far ago it was. Just to tie everything together. Um, Lake, final question for you as we look ahead to these conference championship games. The NFC championship game is clearly going to be better than the AFC championship game. Uh, the Bo Nix injury is like one of the most unique injuries we've ever seen. Uh, because it happened right after the game. Like literally, Rashid Shaheed is running into the end zone for the opening kickoff, and the tweet comes out about Sean Payton announcing Bo Nix is done. In terms of, and by the way, Nick Foles still with the tweet of the weekend. Um, do you think Denver still has a shot in all of this, or are we really going to
mhm,
get,
mhm.
or do you think New England is destined for another Super Bowl? And what are your thoughts on the NFC Championship game?
Yeah, I think Denver definitely still has an opportunity. I mean, their defense is really good, and they're going to create some turnovers. That's what they do. And Jared Stidham is he's a guy that's been around. He's never really lit the world on fire. But he's played some decent football at times. He's a professional, and I think in that offense. I don't know what people are watching when they watch Denver's offense, but I can tell you right now there is a lot of game managing with Bo Nix. So I don't want people to think that Bo Nix is this ultimate gunslinger out there and he's got to carry their offense, because that's not what they do with him. Sean Payton, you know, drafts up and calls, a game that is suited for Bo Nix to not have to be Superman. And yes, he can extend plays and off schedule some plays because of his athletic ability, but I think you're going to get the same thing with Stidham. I think it's going to still be the same game plan, frankly. Just don't turn the ball over, take the opportunities that are there, run the football, and play outstanding defense. And you do have a chance to beat New England. I don't think they will because I do think they're going to miss Bo Nix ultimately, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. And if Denver were to win the game, I would not be surprised. But I'm going to say this: Super Bowl winners coming out of the other side of the out of it. Period. Seattle's playing phenomenal football. They just literally dragged the 49ers in the alley from the jump. And came out with a lot of money. And then you look at the Rams. Man, I thought the Rams were done when they gave up that incredible play by Caleb. I thought he had ripped their heart out on that play, and I was like, here we go, another meltdown right in Chicago. But they came through, and them in Seattle, obviously the history of being in the same division, and so that's going. They just played 3 weeks ago. It was a great football game, so I'm expecting that one to be rock'em sock'em football. And I think the winner of the Super Bowl actually is going to come from the NFC Championship. That's how it used to be anyway. It used to be at the Super Bowl, whoever won the NFC Championship was basically hoisting the trophy.
Well, we'll find out this week, and of course, you can catch both games right here on VTR in Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. A man who covers the NFL and is always grinding. We still have more coaching hires to make. I mean, just NFL never stops. At Lake Lewis Jr., Commanders and NFL Insider. Appreciate the time this morning. Appreciate working through the technical issues, and we'll talk again next week, my man.
All right. See you guys later. Take care.
Yes, sir. So, by the way, we're filling out the morning warm up football team. Got you, star tight end, Lake at receiver. I'll be the coach because I am not athletic at all. We need a quarterback. Um, so I don't know. Maybe Bryson Gordon would join us tomorrow. We'll ask him about his quarterback skills on the morning warm up. But when we come back, more on the national championship game and a couple other headlines that we forgot to hit to in case you missed it. So we'll refire that and we'll go over the latest headlines next on the morning warm up.
When shopping for auto liability insurance, it's wise to consider the best policy, not the cheapest. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. It's crucial to have more than the minimum insurance on your auto liability policy. This protects you if you injure someone or if someone without proper insurance hurts you. Having the right policy ensures you have sufficient underinsured coverage to take care of you and your family. To learn more how we can help you navigate these challenges, visit us at trostlaw.com. That's trostlaw.com.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we believe personal banking should be as rooted in the community as you are. Whether managing your business banking, saving for your family's dream home, or juggling daily expenses with our mobile app, we offer tailored solutions with a local touch. Experience the security of a bank that knows your name and the convenience of modern technology. Visit us today to grow your financial future right here at home. The Farmers Bank of Appomattox, your community, your bank, your future.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets, or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. It's time to find out who will play for Super Bowl 60 with Conference Championship Weekend. Coverage starts at 2:30 p.m. as the Broncos take on the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Then the NFC Championship game as the Seattle Seahawks will take on the LA Rams. Check out Conference Championship Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, and the VTRN Sports app.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:44 on this Tuesday, January 20th. We're going to refire it with In Case You Missed It.
Keeping up with sports 24/7 takes some serious effort, especially when you're sleeping. Don't worry, the morning warm-up stays alert around the clock. Now, here is everything you missed last night.
So, everything you missed last night, including the latest hires in around the NFL, mentioned it. Jeff Hafley, the next head coach in Miami. Robert Saleh, the next head coach in Tennessee. So we're starting to fill out the head coaching hires. Obviously, Bills and Ravens are the two most notable that are still open. And the Steelers are, but like I don't. It's either like it's kind of sneaky bad hire. Like it's good in terms of you're going to get stability and they're a great franchise. But if you look at their roster, it's old, it's expensive, and it's middling. Where like I assume a lot of that roster is not going to be there. So you're going to hope you want to get a coach that's going to be there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it's the Steelers, so you should trust the institution.
Yeah.
Virginia did lose Kent State edge Jamon Mathis. He flipped his commitment to Texas Tech yesterday. That happened as well. And then in the NBA, some breaking news overnight. Jimmy Butler tore his ACL in the 135-112 win over, ironically, the Miami Heat. I believe that was the first time. They might have played once with Jimmy, but it might have been the first time Jimmy's played Miami since he got traded last year. I know it was Andrew Wiggins' first time back in Golden State since then, but yeah, that's just a tough break for a Warriors team that has been okay. I think is getting the most out of it considering their old roster. But you got to feel for them there. Jimmy Butler, torn ACL, done for the year. Bucks 112, Hawks 110. Nikhil Alexander-Walker is playing really good basketball this season. The former Hokie had 32 last night. Thunder defeat the Cavs 136-104. Clippers defeat the Wizards. There you go, Washington 110-106. Mavs or the Knicks 114-97. Spurs over the Jazz, 123-110. Sixers over the Pacers, 113-104. Suns over the Nets, 126-117. And the Pistons defeat the Celtics, 104-103, and two of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. But again, we're going to go back to the national championship. So Indiana 27, Miami 21. I do want to play the other key moment of that game. Ty mentioned it. It was that block punch. Again, Sean McDonough from ESPN Radio on the call.
Fletcher behind Beck. Two receivers into the boundary left. C.J. Daniels wide to the right. It's a handoff running right to Fletcher.
This is actually the Mark Fletcher touchdown.
Inside the 30 of Indiana.
That was the long Mark Fletcher touchdown. I found the wrong highlight. My bad, folks. That is called a fault. That is called a mistake by me. But the block punt was one of the turning points of the game. Made it 17-7, and it's kind of incredible what Indiana did in the big picture of it. Obviously, the core of this team started at James Madison, a JMU team, by the way, that, remember, beat Virginia. This core of this team, like, one of their big notable wins was beating the Virginia, like, first-year Tony Elliott Virginia team. Like, that's how long ago this has been under Curt Cignetti, or would have been second-year Tony Elliott. Yeah, because this is fourth season. So, yeah, second-year Tony Elliott team. And I just, it amazed me what this team has done. The only comparison I made is like 2016 Leicester City. Granted, they were 150-1 to win the title with Indiana coming into the season. They're coming off a really good year. Leicester City was 5,000-1 coming into the season, and it's definitely very different. But like, basically, like, there is no comparison, like, ever. This is like the best comparison I can make is if Butler hit the, like, if Gordon Hayward hit the half court heave against Duke and Butler won the national championship. Like, that's the only compare. Like, Indiana was when Curt Cignetti got there, was the worst program in the history of college football. They had the most losses in the history of college football. They're still second, by the way. Like, Northwestern just had more losses. But it's just it amazed me what Curt Cignetti did. And, you know, the blue chip ratio, which basically means you have above 50% 4- and 5-star players, since that was founded by Bud Elliott from the Cover 3 podcast. Basically, every team has won the national championship. Well, that was busted. The talent, like, every metric to rate talent has been busted in this Indiana team. And it helps you're going to have the number one pick at quarterback. But this is honestly one of the most, considering the history of college football, this is one of the most improbable titles, and it is the true effect of the fact that we had seismic change in the sport. And it does give hope to a place like Virginia and a place like Virginia Tech, where you can, if you get the right talent and have the right investment, you can win a national championship at those schools. Now, it is clear to me that Curt Cignetti, both himself and his assistants, are some, like, insanely high level coaches that are, like, Curt Cignetti as a coach. Like, when he said, "Google me, I just win," like, he means it. And it's a model that I don't think ever will be replicated, but it's going to be a model that what teams are searching for.
It just a coach know how to back it up as well.
Like, I think Stiggs might be my favorite coach. Like, what he was saying last night, like, he's like, how you sell? I'm gonna get a beer. He's like, but like, he was so, like, he's so locked in during the game. Like, he's the closest thing to, like, I think he's the closest thing to Saban. Like, Kirby's probably actually the closest thing to Saban, but like, I think Kirby as a recruiter, I think Kirby is the recruiter side of acquiring talent, but like what made Saban so great is Kirby is not a bad game planner. I'm not here to say that, but like, you basically, in Nick Saban, got the best game planner in the history of the sport and the best recruiter in the history of the sport. And so it's not only that he had the best talent, he also could outcoach you. And that's the thing with Cignetti. Like, he is a really clearly like a D'Angelo Pons. Like, he finds these perfect diamonds in the rough and develops them into national championship. So
like, he knows who to bring in as well. That he knows he's like, okay, I could develop him as a good player. I know I can see everything what he could do. Oh, he's really raw, but I can really polish him up really good.
Yeah, it's just it's incredible. All right. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. We'll do Today in Sports History. Plus, Alberto Mendoza is in the portal, and an ACC team is linked to him. So we'll talk about that next here on the Morning Warm Up.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
We're joined by Corey Argentino from Earthright Mid-Atlantic and Earthright Roofing. Corey, blending those two together, the roofing and the solar, how does that benefit the customer?
Well, the customer now has a trusted source, a local trusted source for solar and roofing needs. So if you've already gone solar or know somebody who needs a roof, it's a great mix. You've already had the experience with the company, you understand how we work. We're local and we have a showroom here. You can come right in and see how it works together.
You mentioned the showroom. People can come in when they speak with an Earthright consultant. How beneficial is that with a consultant that can consult on both roofing and solar?
Well, I think it's very important. And I say why people should come in the showroom. I drove 5 hours to get my dog. I know many other people have. You can drive 30 minutes or an hour to come see something before you purchase it. You can touch and feel the product, meet the team, and see how we do business.
It's an easy way to get acquainted with both Earthright Mid-Atlantic and the solar division, as well as Earthright Roofing and the ability to blend those two pieces together. Come by, see the showroom on Timberlake Road in Lynchburg, and learn more at earthright.com.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us, build with experience, build with quality, build with Right Choice.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:54 on this Tuesday, January 20th. So I mentioned it, Alberto Mendoza, and you're like, that name sounds familiar. He's the brother of Fernando Mendoza, who was an Indiana commit. He is entering the portal because now basically Indiana Miami players have like I think it's like a 3-day grace period to enter the portal. That's why I probably hear Malachi Tony has re-signed or whatever that means with Miami thing. But the name the school to watch appears to be Georgia Tech. So the Mendoza family back in the ACC. Pretty intriguing there. So I just wanted to mention that as a fun little nugget about the national championship game. All right, we're going to end the show with Today in Sports History. Can Ty Tracy, who's already 0 for 1, because I asked him about, I made the Yale question. Can he redeem himself?
Tyrod waiting. Tyrod scrambling. Back at the 20. Fires end zone and is caught for the touchdown by Roberts. It's a miracle in Blacksburg. Tyrod did it, Mikey. Tyrod did it.
It's time for Today in Sports History.
Play action. Salter to throw back to the left, and it's caught in the end zone. Light him up. Touchdown, Liberty. Bentley Henshaw.
From ruin to redemption, the Virginia Cavaliers are the 2019 NCAA National Champions.
Let's hear what Ty really knows about what happened on this day in sports history.
All right. On this date, 1980, President Carter announces that the U.S. Olympic team will not participate in the Summer Olympics in this city as a form of protest. Because if I tell you why they're protesting, you'll get it. So basically, you're trying to figure out where the Olympics was in 1980. If you get the country, I'll give it to you.
Was it like Afghanistan?
No, you're on the right track. It was in Moscow.
Oh, okay.
In protest of the USSR invasion
Oh,
of Afghanistan the previous month.
okay.
Because then when the U.S. had the Olympics in America, the USSR protested it.
Okay.
So the U.S. did not participate in the Olympics in 1980. All right. The year is 2008. Tom Brady and the New England Patriots are too much for this team in the AFC Championship game, pulling out a 21-12 victory that sends them back to the Super Bowl for the fourth time in 7 seasons. Bonus on if you can name what was going on with the starting quarterback for this team in that game, for the losing team. I think he was in. I think it was.
Was it San Diego Chargers?
It was the San Diego Chargers.
That's to do something with Philip Rivers, was it?
Yes, it is something to do with Philip Rivers.
I can't remember though. Was it like he was injured? Like
He was injured. What was his injury? It's kind of an insane injury. The fact he played in this game.
I don't even know, to tell you the truth. I can't remember.
He tore his ACL.
Oh,
Remember, he tore his ACL the week before, and he played in the AFC Championship game with a torn ACL.
okay. See, that's what I was like. I knew someone was injured. I just can't
By the
remember
way, the Giants beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. We had a giant. So there's that. On this date in 2013, actually, Joe Flacco outduels Tom Brady. All right, I'm just gonna. That is today in sports history. So this was probably your worst effort because you got the team right, but I'm not giving you the full point there. So you went 0-3,
Mm-hmm.
31-6 now, Ty.
It's okay.
I mean, by the way, on this date, if there's one related to Virginia, but you were never going to get this. And on this date in 2001, Alan Webb of South Lakes High School in Reston, Virginia, became the first American prep runner to break the 4 minutes on the indoor mile.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no one. Congrats to Alan. Happy birthday. Hey, speaking of birthdays and a guy we mentioned, happy birthday, Nick Foles, my hero, my GOAT. If you're a Broncos fan listening, Nick Foles can do it. So can Jared Stidham. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Morning Warm Up on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM W227 BGT.